Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 22 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. 7 years ago, or I think it was, I'm doing my math here, trying to figure it out. But just before my father passed away, he had been sick for about a half of a year, and he had a trach. I hope I'm saying that right. He had a hole in his neck, and that's how he breathed. Did he breathe through his neck? I can't remember. Yeah, he breathed through his neck.
Yes, he did.
And then it was determined that he probably wasn't going to live, so the hospital, the local hospital, didn't know. Well, they knew what to do, but they told us that the only choices were to either send him to a hospital up in Ohio, which was the only one qualified to take care of it all. I don't even know that I understand that, but I want to get to the point here. Or he can go home, but the problem with going home is that he'd have to have a lot of family members that were trained how to take care of a trach, how to take care of all the other needs that he had. So we all said, okay, well, we'll do that. That's our choice, because he wants to go home, and we want to take care of him. He was not out of mind. He was of sound mind. It was his body that was failing, so he knew what was going on. And I'll never forget the day that you, Robin, were in there, and my nephews, my nieces, my brothers, my sister-in-law, my sister.
And you.
I was there, of course, and everybody went into that hospital room to take nursing lessons.
Yes, we did.
And it was a few months of that, and I suddenly was thrust into this world of caregiver that I had only heard about and never really knew how much of a role a caregiver plays and how much work, 24 hours a day, it is. And I left out my mom's name. She was also one of the caregivers.
Oh, yes.
Marina Symcox is on the phone. She is a PhD, a biochemist, a cancer survivor. She was diagnosed with advanced gastrointestinal stromal tumors. Wow. And she's also a co-founder of the Patient Support Group. Carly O'Brien is also on the phone. She's an oncology social worker and a caregiver program coordinator at Cancer Care. Ladies, I hope that wasn't too unfair of me to take such a long intro, but I wanted to explain what we went through, so you understood that we sort of kind of understand what you're talking about. Good morning, Marina and Carly.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
The subject matter is about being a care provider, but there's more to it than that, right?
Absolutely. So November is National Family Caregivers Month, which is really a good time to have a conversation about, as you mentioned, how involved the role of a caregiver is. And we want people to really pay a little bit more attention to how big of a role they play and how they are really an extension of a patient's healthcare team, especially for patients who have so many different things to manage, both medically, practically, emotionally. The caregiver really plays an important role in all of that.
There was always a professional that came by the house, though. It wasn't as if we were totally left on our own. Is that typical?
That's common. A lot of times people will have a visiting nurse or somebody who does have a special medical training to come in and help out with some of the day-to-day things. But really, the caregivers also manage a lot of the emotional impact of a patient's disease. They are the cooks. They are the cleaners. They transport them to and from medical appointments. They help keep track of their medication. So they're really playing a lot of different roles.
And the emotional well-being of the patient is just as important as the emotional well-being as the caregiver.
Absolutely. Being a caregiver can be exhausting. It requires a lot of time and attention. So we really want to encourage caregivers to get emotional support for themselves as well, because in turn, that helps them to be a better caregiver for the patient.
It is a real truth, and we can speak because of what I described earlier. In fact, Robin would sometimes be the person who was there all night long and then come in to do the radio show. And it was a 30-mile drive. It wasn't.
Yes.
It was not really close.
Yeah, we worked in shifts.
So I understand what you're saying about the multidisciplinary. So the part, like for example, if I was a little skittish about giving an insulin shot, which I was, maybe I could be better off going to get a pizza, or doing something else, right?
it's a fine balance. Part of being a caregiver is knowing when to delegate to others in your support system for help. So having support to help you make those decisions and decide which is the best route to take is really important. And that's where organizations like Cancer Care comes in and provides that professional support and guidance to help caregivers manage all of those different needs and all of those different roles.
Oh, okay, excellent.
And Marina, you were a biochemist when you were diagnosed. How did that change your life?
Oh, my goodness. Well, when I was diagnosed in 1997, gastrointestinal stromal tumor was a poorly understood cancer. It had no effective treatments except surgery. My GIST had already spread throughout my liver. And so when I was first diagnosed, I was given a terminal prognosis of just a few months to live. So my family, my extended family, husband, members of the community, all had to step up to the plate. We had 3 small children in the home. We relied on extended family and members of the community to help with their care. My husband and I, it was pretty much a full-time endeavor traveling across the country to various academic cancer centers, because you couldn't rely on a local community doctor to know even where to begin to treat this condition. I spent 8 months in hospice. We had the hospice staff coming into the home, and when I had about a month left to live, my husband learned from another caregiver about a new trial that had started. It was a small trial. There were only 20 slots in the trial initially, and it was through this caregiver-to-caregiver sharing of information over the internet that my life is saved.
Wow.
The trial wasn't very well publicized, but my husband stepped up to the plate. He arranged for pathology tests to make sure I had the right protein markers in my preserved tumor samples, and I did. He arranged to get me an appointment at a cancer center that was halfway across the country, and he got me there. He practically carried me through airports.
Wow.
It turned out that drug happened to be a perfect match for my tumors, which were quite advanced. And this was all 15 years ago.
My
and
goodness.
I have been on the same drug ever since. So I am someone who came out of the last few weeks of hospice to nearly perfectly restored health. I will never be cured. I take my medication daily. I have continual checkups. I'm still in the same clinical trial after 15 years. But he's my husband. He's my hero.
Wow, what a wonderful message. Wow. We're out of time. I know the listeners want to know more. I hope there's a website that we can learn more, Marina and Carly. Can you give us a website?
For just specific information, go to www.justsupport.org.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. What a great story. We'll be right back.
Fox News Alert, I'm Lillian Wu. The suspected ringleader of the Paris attacks confirmed killed in yesterday's police raids. The French Interior Minister saying he was a wanted man even before last Friday.
Abaoud was the subject of a European arrest warrant issued in Belgium. He was condemned to 20 years imprisonment.
He was sentenced in absentia, and Bernard Cazeneuve says France did not know he was in Europe before the attack. New York officials pushing back as ISIS puts out a propaganda video